Hey guys, this is Attorney Walter, if not the third. We are live right now going in. I think we're doing the 41st episode. And as we're beginning that, here comes Shadow. Excellent. So let's go ahead and go through the basics before we go ahead and take some phone calls. I'm going to get rid of this. No more phone calls for the day for doing disability law. What we're going to be doing are helping the community, claimants that are not mine. And basically going forward and assisting people who have questions, who want to run hearing questions, understand how the system works, and all that wonderful jazz. So let's go through the very beginnings. Howdy, Jane Doe. I work here. I've been working here for about 8 years, Disability Resolution PA. That's a company I started about 8 years ago. I worked for a bunch of other lawyers prior to that, up to about 15 years, so that's super fun. Next thing I'm going to go through is this one right here. Now, spaceconstitution.com is about to finally release its trailer. And go live with everything. So I'm really excited about it. I put, I don't know, countless hours into creating the trailer for spaceconstitution.com. If you don't know what that is, it's basically the first open source constitution so that anybody can write in ideas for what they believe should be freedoms or rights that people have. And then we can go ahead and build on it and create future constitutions. All right, guys, let's get to the big thing that I want to talk about before I start taking calls. Here's what you need to know. In the near future, we are going to try, and I'm actually going to be teaming up with my father to create basically kind of like template-oriented videos that have relaxing footage and relaxing information, hypnotic stuff, you know, beautiful waterfalls, beautiful waterways, things like that. And what we're going to be doing is creating this media to upload with the channel to offer you guys basically some options to have some, you know, relaxing therapeutic music and images and vocals from somebody that's registered in the hypno field. And we're going to be basically using this to go ahead and give you guys some options for things that hopefully will give you a little bit more of an emotional relaxation with things throughout this process. The big thing I always talk to people about is, you know, how do you feel through the process? What's going on in you, et cetera, et cetera. The bottom line here is this. I am concerned after working with so many people about the emotional state of claimants as they go through this process. And I want to explain to you why. People inherently do not like being judged unless they're in their absolute best potential, you know, they're skinniest, they're strongest. Here's my six pack. Here's my good looking, you know, back and this and that. And do you like my, they do all this stuff, right? People don't like being inherently judged unless they're at their best. And the reality is that why people feel absolutely terrible through the disability process is because they're being judged at the worst. You know, we're taking away their ability to earn money. We're taking away their ability to go ahead and do the hobbies that they used to. And the Social Security Administration is judging them. So when people get a denial, it really affects those individuals, because what happens is you're having a federal agency say, we don't believe you're bad enough. We don't believe that you are severe enough. And therefore, we don't think you're as bad as you claim you are. And that's tough for people because people in their head are saying, well, this isn't my best. And I feel that I'm at my worst, but my worst is not good enough, because I got a denial from Social Security disability benefits. So we're going to be creating some videos. They'll be relaxing. They'll have therapy and hypnotic things related to them. You know, you can check them out and basically go from there. They will have some cool footage things. There'll be footage from islands, all kinds of stuff. Hopefully I'll get some boating footage in there. So that's going to be a really big thing. We're going to be setting that up through musical hypnotherapy and also disability resolution. And then we might use some of those for constitutional space law as well, with some cool space-oriented videos. So either way, guys, what we're going to do is go ahead and basically start taking phone calls shortly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this up here. Here's the phone number if you want to call in and begin the process. There we go. Here's our first phone call. Hi, good sir. You are live on YouTube. This is Attorney Walter Hnot with Disability Resolution PA. Would you like me to answer a question, or would you like to run live hearing questions?
Good evening, Mr. Hnot. I'd be glad to run hearing questions.
Excellent, good sir. Now, let me ask you this. Would you like me to run them as a kind of adversarial way, which is aggressive questions, or do you want me to run them as more of a learning exercise and, you know, kind of building on the tools that you have?
Yeah, John Doe.
Excellent. Current age, date of birth, and are you left or right-handed?
Current age is 35. Date of birth is October 8th, 1985, and I'm right-handed.
Okay. Now, help me out with this. I want to understand this. What state do you currently live in?
Currently in California.
Okay. Did you recently move there?
Yes, I recently moved here about close to a year.
Okay. What state did you move from?
I moved from Georgia.
From Georgia. Okay, so you're basically from one side of the country to the other side of the country. Did you drive? Did you go ahead and take a train? How'd you get there?
I drove.
Okay.
I drove cross country.
Okay. Now, so you drove the whole way. Let me ask you this: how many times did you have to stop to sleep?
I had to stop after 3 hours. Every about 3 hours, I stayed at an Airbnb overnight. I couldn't go past that, otherwise I just crashed. So I just essentially just did it within 3 hour chunks, and it took me a bit over a week to get there.
Okay. And let me ask you this: were you working throughout this period when you were moving over to California?
No, not at all.
Okay. So how did you afford the move?
I moved because my parents have a house in California, and they allowed me to be able to stay with them. So, yeah, essentially, my dad had an apartment in Georgia, as well as a house in California, and he gave me the opportunity to move. So I carefully drove out there.
Okay. This was you only driving. There was no other individuals driving you, correct?
It was me and my following my girlfriend at the time. We were doing kind of we did a cross country trip, and we stayed. Yeah, every 3 hours we would stop, and essentially, it was just my girlfriend and I.
Okay. So I understand that. Help me out with this. So you moved in total, correct? So you had to load up the car and head out there?
That's correct. I put all my stuff in there, loaded it up, and started hitting the road.
Okay. Now, tell me about this hitting the road. So were you in a large car to have all of your stuff in there? Were you in a small car?
I was in a small Toyota, early 90s Toyota, and I would drive 3 hours. Sometimes I would stay at campgrounds, and usually my girlfriend had one of those propane stoves, and she would cook, because I tried to cook a couple times. I tried to use it. The propane was leaking gas, and it almost caught on fire. So I stopped trying to cook after that. Just let her do it.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, then let me ask you this. So you had difficulty with that, I understand. So you were going across. Who loaded up car?
I loaded up the car with the help of my dad. My dad helped me get a lot of stuff in the car. I didn't have that much stuff. Essentially, I'm a minimalist. So I really don't carry too much stuff. So, yeah, it was something that I did, and my dad with the help of my father.
Okay. Let me ask this. So, okay, so you're able to load some things. What are your top 5 most severe? Tell me out with that.
My top 5, Your Honor, my top 5 most severe impairments are chronic fatigue, brain fog, anxiety, trouble concentrating, memory, and just being able to focus, concentrate, and function for a sustained period longer than 20 minutes. That's really the biggest impairments that affect that ability to function greater than 20 minutes without losing concentration.
Let's run it again. What are your top 5 most severe impairments?
Top 5 most severe impairments are anxiety, depression, chronic fatigue syndrome, with neurocognitive difficulties, with memory, brain fog, concentration, difficulties with socialization, and yeah, I would say those are the most severe impairments.
Let's run it again. I need it more smooth. I need it in bullet point form. Good, sir. What are your top 5 most severe impairments?
Top 5 most severe impairments are anxiety, depression, neurocognitive disorders, with included in that problems with focus, memory, concentration, completing tasks, simple and complex, and just forgetting stuff, and chronic fatigue syndrome from neuroinflammation.
Okay, I want to do that one more time without the use of no ums. Every time you use the word it creates separation. And the problem is that the judge is sitting there trying to fill in the gaps as to what are your impairments that he needs to be aware of. And here's what's going inside of the judge's mind. He's thinking, okay, let's think. Anxiety, 12.06, depression, 12.04. He's thinking listings. What are the requirements for the statutes to be met? Does this look like a claim that's going to have a listing analysis, a vocational allowance, a grid out? He's looking through all those options. And if I go, so here's, I'm thinking about anxiety, and depression. What happens is you separate him or her from your claim, and all of a sudden the judge is not thinking in a consistent and straight line, and you're losing the judge's focus, which is not good. Good, sir. What are your top 5 most severe impairments?
Okay. Top 5 most severe impairments are anxiety, depression, neurocognitive problems, neurocognitive disorder, chronic fatigue syndrome, sleep difficulties. I mentioned chronic fatigue syndrome. It's not an impairment, but that you would do an equal listing to see if the impairment matches that. Mm-hmm. So, with the neuropsych testing, with the chronic fatigue impairment, the equal listing would be problems with battery tests and some of the neuropsych tests with a memory recall and cognitive functioning. Those are equal listings from the equivalencies to the chronic fatigue syndrome.
Okay, so walk me through this, right? So, all right. What I want is a bullet point. Straight and true, bullet points 1 through 5. Actually, let's do this, 1 through 3. What are your top 3 most severe impairments?
top 3 most severe impairments: anxiety, depression, chronic fatigue syndrome.
Excellent. What are your top 5 most severe impairments?
Top 5 most severe impairments: anxiety, depression, chronic fatigue syndrome, sleep disorder, and neurocognitive disorders.
Okay. Let's run it again. What are your top 5 most severe impairments?
Chronic fatigue syndrome, secondary depression, anxiety, neurocognitive disorder, sleep impairment.
Excellent. Good, sir. I want you to tell me this. What do you feel is your most severe impairment of all of those 5?
Chronic fatigue syndrome.
Okay, understood. Now, can you tell me why does that limit you the most throughout the day?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, say that again.
Good, sir. Why does that in particular, that impairment in particular, limit you the most throughout the day?
Well, Your Honor, you see, I used to be before the alleged onset date, I used to be very active. I used to hike a lot. I used to be able to stay on computers for really long period. Well, really long periods, longer than the Blue Book listings of just being able to concentrate in an 8-hour day. So essentially, Your Honor, within an 8-hour workday, I wouldn't be able to. I'm typically functioning 2 hours a day on a given 24-hour day where I'm physically active, between 12 to 14 hours in bed, and essentially, Your Honor, 15 minutes sitting, and then while I'm sitting, I start having muscle aches, so I get up, walk around, and then do 4 rounds of that, and then either take a pain medication, anxiety medication, or lay down in bed. So essentially, after I go through these intermittent activities throughout the day that are in short chunks. So if I do something for 15 minutes, I need another 15, 30 minutes to recuperate, Your Honor, and I don't believe anybody will hire me with that.
Okay. What was the past type of work that you did, and what was the last year that you did it?
The last type of work I did, I did work at a women's eating disorder hospital for about 2 months. That's probably under the successful attempt. But the last job that I did was at Delta Airlines, booking hotel rooms for pilots and flight attendants.
Okay. Why were you unable to do that job?
Well, Your Honor, I was there for 9 months. The first 6 months, 6 to 7 months that I was there, I was performing very well. And then suddenly, I would get really confused in the work environment when I was on the phone making calls, simple routines that I typically are easy to do. I would just freeze on the phone and just sometimes hang up the phone because I wouldn't know what's going on around me. And yeah, I just couldn't. I just had real difficulties concentrating. And anytime I was around any of the microwaves in the break rooms, anything. I was near the airport for one, where there's a lot of EMF radiation. But anytime I was around a concentrated area where there's a lot of cell phones running or microwaves, I start getting dizzy and confused. And as a result, my supervisor gave me a 2-week leave to see if it was just stress that would relieve the symptoms. So I came back 2 weeks later, wore a pennant around my chest that was supposed to supposedly help block some of the EMF, but I continued. Within 3 to 4 hours, symptoms would set in. I would start getting confused, not knowing where I am, start getting dizzy, feeling wired, and essentially I ended up getting fired from the job. And that was the last time I worked 2 years ago.
Okay. That was way too long. We're going to try this again. What happened with the last full-time job that you had that you were able to keep?
Yes. So I was working at Delta Airlines in 2018. I was there for about 9 months. Things went great the first 7 months. I really enjoyed the work. I got along well with all of the coworkers. There was a moment 7 months later where I did have an issue with one of the coworkers who was always getting on my case. And besides that, I didn't have any other issues with coworkers. I would routinely book hotel rooms for pilots and flight attendants. That would be really easy. And suddenly I'd start getting confused of my surroundings. And I would just kind of like blank out while I'm booking these hotel rooms. And
no more ums. No more ums. You got to cut those ums out. I mean, I'm literally the only thing I'm focusing on is that. But yeah, all right. So in 2 sentences, why couldn't you keep the job that you last had that was your full-time position?
Your Honor, I had difficulties sustaining attention, concentration, and focus for more than 2 hours within the 8-hour workday.
Okay. All right. That told me nothing about the functions of the job. 2 sentences on the functions of the jobs that you could no longer do. Walk me through it.
Okay, 2 sentences of the functioning of the job that I could no longer do. I could no longer concentrate on the computer for longer than 15 minutes at a time without needing to get away from the computer. That sent me back because I was really good at that prior to that happening. And secondly, I would get anxiety from the environment that I was in, working near the airport, and all of the radiation that was around me. The anxiety often caused me to, towards the end of my job, leave work early, and I would spend the next day hanging out in the woods, recovering from whatever happened the day before.
In the woods, help me out with that.
Yes, so I drive about 20 minutes from my house to State Park, and I would just go there near a river and just lay down pretty much the whole day, and it would sort of the effects of what I experienced, the wiredness, the insomnia, the disturbances, the neurological disturbances, the immune system feeling run down. It dissipated after spending like 5 to 7 hours at a state park essentially in a forest.
So would it be correct to assume if you were doing that, you don't really have any environmental restrictions? You're okay with hot, cold, dust, loud sounds, vibrations, bright lights, all that stuff.
I'm not okay with cold weather, extremities of cold and heat. And and I do have allergies to air pollution. And I do have an inhaler that I intermittently take as a PRN by a doctor because of the wildfires out here in California.
Okay. Tell me this. So, you're in a situation where you've moved out to California. How are you affording to live out there right now?
Pretty much, yeah, I'm pretty much supported by my parents.
Okay. Are you currently seeking work? Are you trying to find a job?
Well, I've been trying to get treatment from Stanford to try to get the energy to be able to work part-time at least. But my functioning, Your Honor, has pretty much stayed the same as far as the windows of within a day of intermittent periods of activity that hasn't improved. So I'm essentially in the same situation I was 2 years ago.
Help me out with this. So I just want to understand this correctly. Do you have any difficulty with cooking, cleaning, laundry, or paying bills?
Yeah, I do have difficulties with cooking. Oftentimes, when I need to chop potatoes, I need to sit in a chair to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And after cooking such a meal that requires that preparation, I need to lay down for an hour or two after doing that work. So most days I just eat food that has already been prepared for me or prepackaged, or something that's microwavable, something that's real simple.
Okay.
I've had complaints about cleanliness. I shower maybe once or twice a week,
Mm-hmm.
with the help of a chair in the shower. With regards
Okay.
to finances, I don't really have bills to pay. But if I did, I would be in a dire financial situation.
Okay.
I do get $200 from the state of California for general assistance. It's a psych evaluation that initially denied the temporary general assistance of $200, and then had a psychiatrist wrote a letter to the city to the county, and they were able to overturn that.
Okay.
And they mentioned we can get the money back for SSI.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Walk me through this. Are you currently prescribed any medications?
I'm currently taking clonazepam, Lyrica as a PRN, and pitazepine for sleep.
Okay, well, help me out with this. Do you get any side effects from them? Or are they?
Well, it seems like when I first took the medications, Your Honor, they were helping, but it seems that the effects have diminished over time. The sleep medication makes me really drowsy throughout the day. The Klonopin kind of makes me sedated,
Mm-hmm.
and essentially, the Klonopin has not been as effective as when I first started taking it.
Okay. I'm having a hard time knowing when you are ending your sentences because you're not giving me kind of that upward mobility to, where you're going, and then the quick downward ending with the sentence. So we got to work on getting rid of ums. We have to get work on being more specific and direct. We have to work on giving a better bow effect to what your sentences are going to do. Let me give you a couple easy questions, and we're going to go back to a tough question. Okay, do you receive food stamps or any other governmental program benefits via the federal, state, or county governments?
Yes, sir. I receive SNAP benefits, both on the side of food stamps and cash aid.
Excellent. Currently or within the past 5 years, did you receive or achieve any permits, licenses, or allowances on behalf of the federal, state, or county government?
Have I achieved any licenses? I'm sorry?
Any permits, licenses, or allowances on behalf of the federal, state, or county government?
No, just a driver's license in Georgia, maybe 5 years ago.
Okay. Do you still have a current and valid driver's license?
Yes, Your Honor.
Excellent. Are you currently or have you been within the past 5 years a member of any clubs or unions, whether for recreational or professional purposes?
Within the last 5 years, yes, Your Honor. I was a member of a table tennis association in Atlanta, where I was really active before the condition began about 2 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago. I was really active in the table tennis association.
Okay, tell me more about your hobbies. There's table tennis. What else?
Yes, table tennis was one of them at the time. Some of my hobbies are essentially watching videos on YouTube, short videos regarding the news and media that is like alternative, non-mainstream media, independent media. And besides that, I do like to look up ways to try to improve health online, and for short intermittent periods, look at scientific studies on ways to improve health. And essentially those are my main hobbies.
All right, can you help me out with this? You said that you're no longer doing the table tennis. Why is that?
Tennis, because anytime within a couple minutes of doing cardio, I start having really bad muscle aches. I get brain fogged, and I start muscle weakness, and I get exhausted really easily from any type of cardio physical exertion. So essentially, I have stopped doing any sort of sport that involves cardio, and I've limited myself to 5 to 10 minute brief walks.
Okay, I find myself disconnecting from what we're talking about, and I know that you have the lack of energy, all those issues as well, but I don't feel like I'm really able to connect with what you're saying. Everything is really, really monotone. Everything is really, and I understand your impairments, but I'm having a hard time understanding what you're saying because my brain keeps, and keep in mind I've worked all day, but these judges, they need a little bit of flair. They need a little bit of fanciness to go ahead and keep their mind logging all this. Tell me about a story, something about how you used to have a hobby that you loved and why you can no longer do it nowadays.
I'll give you a story. Just yesterday, I tried to go to the golf course, something that I grew up doing, playing high school 4 years. And essentially, I used to be able to walk 18 holes without any problem for hours. And nowadays, I try to Your Honor, I really tried to, there's a science of willpower, and I try to really push myself through any pain. And yesterday I practiced putting and chipping for like an hour, and it took me 18 hours to recover. I wasn't recovered till about 2 hours before I called you, or you called me for the hearing. Essentially, that has been my life. Is that anytime I go over my exertional limits, there's delayed payback in the form of extreme fatigue that typically leaves me bedridden.
So you were recently able to play how many holes of golf?
About 4 years ago, I was able to play 18 holes of golf.
What about now? Could you make it through half of that? Not 9 holes?
I could probably do 3 to 4 holes before I start experiencing muscle aches and fatigue and have to go back in the car and lay down for an hour before I drive back to the house.
Okay. All right. Final question. Is there any job that you feel you would be able to do in the national economy?
No, Your Honor.
Why not?
Well, Your Honor, because of the symptoms of chronic fatigue, of the inability to sit upright for 15 minutes without experiencing muscle aches, fatigue, joint pain. With the unpredictability of the illness, something as simple as cooking a meal can cause a relapse that will leave me bedridden. Something as simple as going shopping for 10 to 15 minutes in the aisle can leave me bedridden. Your Honor, the condition is unpredictable, but what I do know is my activities are intermittent throughout the day in like 15 minutes chunk, and I'm really not active for more than 2 or 3 hours at a day with ample rest in between.
Okay. All right. Here's what I would say. You're getting away from the use, which is very good. You started to reduce that throughout the process. The big thing I'm looking for is finding more descriptive terms and adjectives, going and watching people who are somewhat excitable and can tell stories through videos, because one of the things I'm hearing is a monotone, lack of reaction. It's not bullet points. It's not sentences. It's like a mixture of both. And what I need is just something to kind of wake me up with the story. And I understand why you sound so tired, and I get that. But the problem is I feel like it's almost a lack of being sold to me. Judges will often say after the hearing, well, I guess some of the claimants don't want me to find them disabled today, or I guess the claimants don't want me to find, in their favor today. It just makes me feel like you're not having any effort. And I understand you're tired. That's the whole point behind that. But it feels like you're repeating the same things without more options of diction, the words you choose, more options of the, charisma of how you present them to me. It's just this, and let me give you an example. This is what it started out with. This is kind of what it evolved into. I'm tired. I have to lay down. And when I had my job, it was very difficult for me to do a lot of functions, but and then ultimately I got released from my job, and it was difficult, so that was and then I began my move to California, and it's kind of like that. It's kind of like a monotonous campaign, and you start to get better towards the end, but still there's this overall, I didn't hear any buzzy words. I didn't hear any like makes my brain turn onwards. You know, like you didn't try and sell me on anything. You were just saying like, life is really hard, and I'm trudging through the snow, yada yada yada. So let's try one more thing. I want you to out of how you normally are. I want you to. Oh wow, somebody just done. Lily the Great. Thank you so much for donating. I really really appreciate it. That's amazing. So what I want to do is, good sir, I want you to give me a description as to your favorite hobby, but I don't want you to sound like you. I don't want you to use the words that you normally use. I want this to be an out of the box experience. Tell me about golf. Go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. So, Your Honor, many times throughout the past few months, I go to the golf course, I go to the putting green, I see older people in their 70s and 80s, Your Honor, who don't appear to be in good shape. But nonetheless, I envy them because of, Your Honor, the way my life has turned around the last couple of months. I absolutely love the game. I'm a really highly ambitious person, and unfortunately, when I start practicing, I've never lost my feel for the game. I can do it well. I just can't do it long. I can't do it longer than like 10 or 15 minutes without needing to go back and lay down in the car. And it's really a pain. It causes me, Your Honor, a lot of angst and depression and anxiety over my future. And I wonder that I won't be around long, being in my mid-30s and having these symptoms. I really do worry about the future and not around. And yeah, it's really difficult, Your Honor. Doing something that you love doing, I'd like to be able to teach, but if I can't even practice myself for more than an hour or two, taking a lot of breaks throughout the day, then I can't even see how I can turn that into a job within the national economy, something that I would love to do, teaching golf, Your Honor. It just causes me so much, not only physical pain and aches, but also existential angst and misery, and which leads me to be depressed for much of my life, Your Honor. Growing up watching Tiger Woods, I try to visualize him while playing and trying to visualize the best, and the body just won't allow me to do it, and it's unfortunate, but I can't really do anything about it, Your Honor. I have no control over it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. How do you feel you did with that?
Maybe a little bit better.
Okay. All right. I'm going to take a shot at it real quick. Your Honor, one of the things I loved about life was being able to be on the golf course. I got to go outside, and it was one of those things where I loved being outside. And here's why. When I had the opportunity to, play to the best of my abilities, I felt like I was the best player in the world. To me, I was. To most people, I wasn't, and that's okay. But now I can't swing. I can't even make it around on the golf cart. I have issues with just packing the bag. Couldn't carry it if I wanted to. I've lost what I loved. And now this is my future. You, Your Honor, are my future. Which one of those had more of an emotional connection to the judge?
The second one.
Which one told a more direct story? How could you change yours to be more like the second one?
Maybe focus more on being concise. And trying to relate more on a, I guess you can say, emotional level than mono. When I'm thinking monotone, I'm thinking about the rules and, Social Security regulations and all that stuff and how it affects my impairment. But yeah, it's, I understand what you're saying.
Okay. All right. Good. Now, good sir, keep working on it. I can tell you've already started to work on those questions. I will catch up with you a little bit later, and don't be afraid to call in with more questions in the future.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, good sir. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, good sir. Bye-bye. Okay, guys, here we go. I'm just reading through a few text messages because they're on the phone and not on my computer because it's logged into your app. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, got it. All right, so let me get over to, here we go. Let me get over to, there was a question in here somewhere. Let me find it. I think it was Tina. Let me find it. I'm scrolling. One of the medical episodes are my limitations. Tina, why not speak about limitations? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, Tina, I'm just reading it all. I didn't speak my hearing. I had 2 medical experts that told I didn't speak my hearing. I had 2 medical experts that told judge my limitations, and that was it. Oh, okay. All right. So here's how it works. It is to have 1 medical expert at a hearing. They almost always present information in the very beginning of the hearing. The judge will usually have a conversation with the medical expert before you even get into the hearing. And that communication will be to let the judge know which way the medical expert is leaning. The judge might have a few questions, et cetera, okay? You had 2 medical experts, which is extremely, extremely rare. When there are 2 medical experts, that means there are 2 medical conditions in question that are a little bit difficult for the judge to comprehend. And for that reason, you had 2 great shots at the apple being found disabled. If you did not have much testimony, if the judge made a decision within 2 weeks, it is almost with absolute certainty that you'll be found disabled. With that said, the only thing in question really comes down to, okay, what is the alleged onset date? Will there be retroactive benefits? Is it only back pay benefits? Yada, yada, yada. That's what that really comes down to. Medical experts at essentially an ALJ hearing are there to present specific information to the medical conditions to see whether or not you meet, equal, or exceed the listings, to see how severe you are. Those medical experts have reviewed the F folder relative to your claim, and they should only be offering testimony specific to the medical information that they are educated in. Okay, so if you're having a psychologist all of a sudden giving you information about why your knee isn't working, that's a problem. If you're having a geneticist telling you about why your depression is so bad, why not? We'll have that one. That's fine. All right, guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click. Here's the phone number. We're going to take one more phone call because I do have to go through 3 initial filings. I have to submit something to the ERE folder for a claim I just had, and that's actually going to be the first thing I do. And then I have to go to sleep because I'm horribly sleep deprived. I don't know if you can tell, but I am building these beautiful little mementos of my life. And I used to look really young. Now I look, I don't know. I don't know. Every day I have more hair falling out of my head. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So guys, we're going to go ahead and put it up there real quick. Okay, so John R., let me find your question. A pain stimulator I have spin. I don't know what that means. Let's see. I've been out of work for 3 years. I was on workman's comp. I have settled my case. All doctors I have seen say I cannot go back to my job. That's including the IME. I have a pain stimulator. Okay, gotcha. So you got a spine stim. All right. Let me just see if there's any more information above. All right. So here's the deal. They came out with a new rule, which means that things like 100% VPAT, Well, that one's tricky because then there's a statute still covering that. It means that they cannot use other industry, findings as de facto you are disabled. It has to be considered as a weighing exercise. How much is this evidence worth? So when you talk about workman's comp, and they all said that, we have to look and say, okay, is this the same severity standard? No, it's not. So since it's not the same severity standard, is the evidence that they reviewed accurate? Was that evidence showing that you do have a severe impairment? Was that severe impairment keeping you from working? Was it severe enough to meet a listing? All those little things. That's what the judge is going to be doing when they look at that. Now, remember, I want you to understand something, guys. The DDS reps at initial filing and reconsideration have what's called an MCPA, which is basically a medical consultant who reviews your documents and then advises the DDS rep which way the claim should go. Does the claim go to quality control, approval? Does the claim go straight back to the FO, denial? The ALJs sometimes have MCs as well, but usually what they'll do is they'll just send the claimant off to what's called an ME, medical expert, to go ahead and do an RFC analysis. Now, with that said, all of these adjudicators always use somebody medical-wise to go ahead and help them out if they have a question. If you got tons of medical records, they usually don't need one. There are still some older judges do not use at all. Once again, I just want to say this, do not use. Most of them have retired. I was able to see most of them before they retired because I've not been doing this for a long time. But the bottom line is almost all future administrative law judges will use vocational experts as part of their hearing. So is it important for you to prepare your claim not only for the medical, yes, but also the vocational? All right, so let's go through this real quick. I had a claim recently that medically was very strong claim, but the judge didn't really know the claim, didn't have a grasp on the impairments, and they do that all the time. I mean, there's very few judges that I know who are perfectly prepared for every single hearing. Some of them, I'll have one hearing in the morning and then another hearing with them later in the day. The first hearing, they're like, all over that claim, and then the next hearing, they don't ask a single question because it's just like, I got to look at the record. I had a judge who was categorically very strong with their questions. It was actually one of the best performances I've seen from a judge asking questions. However, they did not understand the claim at all. They had no idea what was going on with it, with the medical conditions provided. They're not required to. They're just required to go ahead and do the hearing structurally like they should. And then by the time they write the brief and come out with their statements, to actually know what's going on. So what that means is that if you guys go through a hearing like that and, the judge is asking you kind of generalized questions and you come out with some bad answers, it is a good idea to create a follow-up supplemental submission, statement, 795 submission, to the SSA as to those things you want to correct. And here's why. Because if the judge did not ask specific questions about your impairments, but the judge did ask the proper categorical, macro questions, sometimes you can clarify things. Now, if you send in a statement with further answers to the testimony that you gave during the hearing, guess what? They are required to respond by law. If they deny you, if they prove you, you're not going to do anything about it. But they're required to give you a response in law as to an actual response or a response as to why they are not going to respond to what you provided. Otherwise, it goes to appeals counsel, gets a remand right back down. So something to consider. Sometimes you'll have claimants that answer questions really well. And here's what happens. You usually get a mixture. They'll answer, 80% of the questions really well, and then 20% of the questions you're like, what happened? But that's okay. That's why we do this stuff on here. Nobody's ever going to be perfect at this stuff. And I want to make it very, very, very clear that you guys are going to do the best job you can. Do not beat yourself up. I know that there's a lot of pressure. I know that there's a lot of money on the line for getting disability benefits. I get that. But I need you to understand this. Do not beat yourself up. Don't do it. You did the best that you could. Run through the questions. You know them. You're going to do the best that you can. You're never going to give a perfect performance. People in pain, people who are confused, people who are tired, people who are just out of some medical emergency, they are not fully aware of what they're doing. You can't blame them. How many of you have come out of a hospital and been like, I am 100% ready to go. None of you have. None of you. All right. So let me check the questions real quick. Let's see. When the ALJ asks the VE 3, maybe 4 questions and stops, then your lawyer asks 2, and then they come up with no jobs. What's your take on that? So Lover Star, the way that works is usually the judge will ask about 4 hypotheticals, maybe 3, maybe 2. Then the attorney will ask generalized questions as to what's the limitations as to, essentially how many days off from work would be work preclusive, how much time off task would be work preclusive. And then the vocational expert would say, okay, that's preclusive, none of yada, yada, yada. In that instance, there was a job available in the national economy. Ergo, you could potentially not do that job. So what's happening is an expert proffered jobs that you could potentially do, and the judge with all those hypotheticals could still use them. So the kicker is Dose Lover Star, that could go either way. Usually if there's 4 hypotheticals, the judge is setting it up for options for approval. But at the same time, if it's a bunch of options with a bunch of jobs, they're setting you up for a denial. Okay. All right, let me see what else we got here. Let's see. John R. I wish I could write more. It cut my question off. Will the settlement that I received hurt my case? So here's the deal with settlements. When you get money, sometimes it's countable and sometimes it's not countable. If you're an SSI person, the next month, right? So let's say that you keep it. The next month that you have it, it turns into a resource, and anything over $2,000 automatically makes you ineligible for SSI benefits. So yeah, in that case, John R., it's going to hurt you because you're going to have to spend it, get rid of it somehow, because the bottom line is you can't have more than $2,000 in reserve. Now, if you're SSDI, you could literally win the lottery, and you wouldn't be eligible for that month, but the next month you'd be eligible. So, but that's the difference between SSI and SSDI. SSDI, I mean, that's the worked and paid into the program. Frankly, SSDI needs to have more relaxed standards, which I think Biden is starting to do, which is good. Okay, let's see. Let me see. Monique662, I was denied. He said I answered the questions too good, even though I had to practice and had notes. Well, so Monique, who said you answered the questions too good? I mean, the judge normally wouldn't say that, so I'm guessing it would be your attorney that said that. And what does that even mean? So let's see. Ask no questions to the expert, no hypotheticals. Well, that's never good. Yeah, Florida couple, I hear you, because that's going to be super duper important. When you find out exactly what's going on with that biopsy, I mean, that is going to literally define everything in your life. So that's a toughie. Let's see. Monique, any additional? The judge in my denial. Monique, send me the denial letter, the info@disabilityresolution.com. And then just try and catch up with me over the weekend. I'll see if I can do a quick read of it and then kind of give you my take on what was going on. But usually judges don't say you answered the question so well, yada, yada. In fact, the judges are looking for you to be, frankly, more organized than not. We get a lot of claimants where, especially I get claimants from big box firms, they don't know what their impairments are. They don't know what their medications are. They don't know what their past jobs were. And they're just going to wing it because they don't know any better. So that is very odd to hear a judge say that. Okay. Dose Lover Star. Yeah, usually the last 2 questions are always work preclusive. That's what they do. But that still could be an approval or denial. Get the likes up, people. Yeah, seriously. I only have 6 likes up. I only have 6 thumbs up. I don't know if those matter. They probably do. They probably use it like an SEO thing, a search engine optimization. David Miller, what's your thoughts on congressional inquiry if no decision at initial filing after 8 months? What's your thoughts on congressional inquiry if no decision initial filing after 8 months? I would say that's probably, with COVID going on, I mean, okay, so guys, let me give a backdrop. Congressional inquiry is where somebody reaches out to a senator, a House rep, or whatever, and says, I need your help. The SSA is not being a mas bueno group. They are slowing everything down. I hate them. They are evil. And above all, I need your help. And that's what a congressional inquiry is. It's where a senator or an executive division person or a House of Reps person will basically reach out, or it could be somebody else, some commissioner, etc., will reach out to the SSA and say, hey guys, here's a formal letter. What's going on with this claim? The SSA, just so you know, has a templatized letter that they respond with, and they tell them, within 30 days or 60 days, we'll respond with an update. I have one. I'm just too lazy to pull up my computer. I have one of those to show you, but it's very simple. It's just a quick letter that says, the person doing the inquiry, we would like a status update on this claim. We're concerned about this. The SSA will write back, here's a status update on the claim. We will update you in 30 to 60 days. This is what's going on with it. So, and by the way, if they're close to making a decision or doing something, Florida Couple, you don't have to donate. You're doing too much. Florida Couple has donated so much before, guys. I literally have chubby dogs and amazing dog toys because of literally Florida Couple. So I just thank you so much. Thank you. Seriously. My dogs aren't even here right now. When we started today, they were over there on the couch. Shadow came over to say hi, and I was giving him belly rubbies and kisses. And then basically he waddled over there. They are chubbed out. I have big, stinky piggy dogs right now. So I love it. I love it. When I get too tired, or I get depressed, or I have to refocus or rezone myself, I go into what's called canine therapy. And what I do is I have a surgical blanket that I place over myself, which is actually just a blanket. And what I do is I just grab my doggies and I take a nap, and I call that canine therapy. And it's amazing. It's so good. Oh my goodness. But Florida Couple, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I do a lot of canine therapy and blanket therapy and blanket surgery all the time. And it's really starting to help me continue working more. So, okay. So guys, let me go back up here. I forgot what we were talking about. Zen, in my remand hearing, doctor said I met a listing on knee and foot. Okay, so we're talking about 1.0 is probably 1.02. Vocational only stated that one job I could do, and lawyer got her to say no, I couldn't do it. Judge only had one question, waiting to hear back. Okay, so just so you guys know, let me break that down. In my remand hearing, so Zen is saying, got a denial at the ALJ level, went to the appeals council level, AAJs reviewed it. They then remanded it back down to the ALJ level with the same judge. The judge is now doing a new decision on it. The attorney got the vocational expert to get rid of that one job, which means if there's no job on the national economy, or that one job that's proffered has too many, or rather too few available in the national economy. So if they're like, well, there's only 4,000 of those available in the national economy, most judges will just nix that. But if they come out with a job that's like, well, there's 130,000 jobs in the national economy that you could be doing with this, then they'll keep it. But if it's like 4,000 of that job available in the national economy, they'll nix it. Actually, one of the video things I'm going to be creating in the near future are the top 10 things that are unrealistic and unfair about the disability program, which is actually going to go into a thing that I'm going to submit to President Biden about all the things that he could change to make this system not just more ethical, but more streamlined, fair. There's a lot of things where, like the 1/3 reduction rule for homeless people, like, if you're couch surfing and somebody allows you to stay in their house, they can reduce your benefits by 1/3. Like, who creates such an asinine rule? They're homeless. Why are we hurting them? They were couch surfing, so we're going to take $300 away. Who creates such an asinine rule? The Social Security Administration does. Yeah. And then they didn't use it for the longest time, and then they started using it, and everybody flipped, a cow patty. All right, so here we go. Robert Eckerty. Attorney told me today not to worry about the hearing tomorrow. Well, I mean, unless you're a freak outer person. Said it was a slam dunk. It's never a slam dunk. And he feels only reason for a hearing is to establish an onset date. That sound funny to you? Look, here's the thing. Some claims are a slam dunk. But every time I've had a claim where I thought this right here is a slam dunk, right? Every time I've had a claim where I'm like, this is Grenada. This is so, I don't even have to worry about this one. I got this. Every time I've been in that position, something horrific occurs. Something that wasn't in the record until literally that morning, about their horrific drug abuse, about their horrific child abuse, about how they're a sexual predator that has done something recent, about one of those. Something has always happened. I'm giving you examples that are easy to comprehend, but there's other things too. Boom, shows up in the record. They were abusing crack cocaine within the past 2 months. Well, out of nowhere, I asked the claimant, what happened, man? Were you having a good time or were you having a great time? And sometimes they will lie to me and they will tell me that they were having a good time. And we both know they were having a great time, because when they went to the hospital, upon reaching the end of that great time, they did a blood test and a urine test and a hair follicle test. God, they got everything on that person. They know exactly how to remake their genetics with, CRISPR. Unfortunately, with that, they do have reports of crack cocaine use and abuse in the system. Yeehaw. All right. Be aware that slam dunk claims are like unicorns. If you see one, it might impale you. So just be aware they go both ways. Just to set the alleged on, like if the judge felt it was that easy, or if the attorney thought it was that easy, he could always submit it as an OTR request, on the record review. But a lot of attorneys don't want to do that, because then they like the claimant to wait for a hearing, because then they get to make more money. If it's truly a slam dunk, ask him why it's a slam dunk. What in the record defines, and ask him, okay, what is it? And you say this will scare the attorney. Oh my goodness, they'll be afraid. They'll be like, oh no, my attorney brain is getting all worried. I don't know why I dislike attorneys so much. As an attorney, I should befriend more of them, or not. I don't go to the same things they do. I don't even go to, like, when they have the options to, like, go to those fancy dinners and, like, mingle and meet and be like, how's it going? How's your life going? How's my life going? I skip those. I'm like, do you have an online option that I can watch from a boat? Because I'm going to do that option. All right, let's go back to the thing. Ask the attorney in the F folder, in the ERE, in your exhibit list, in the F folder, in the ERE, in your exhibit list, what record makes him or her so sure that this is a Michael Jordan slam dunk? That is what you need to know, because here's the thing. It's a great claim. Why? Is it 15F, 32F, page 4, line 4? What makes it a slam dunk claim? That's what you've got to be careful about. Also, again, Florida couple, thank you so much. You are one of the main causes of why I have chubby piggy dogs, and I really appreciate that. I really, really, really appreciate that. And so just realize that. Also, catch up with me tomorrow so we can do a claim review. Dale Rigel. I pronounced that wrong, I'm sure. I just got a letter saying I'm not getting my disability payments for February. Most of it lost because they said it went over SGA by $141 1 month and $329, right? Isn't that weird that, like, years ago they figured this out? They're like, we did a recent audit of your benefits, and we realized that you cheated us at $141 and $329. What's amazing about that, when they do these overpayment things. By the way you can work on that is you have two options. You're going to do both of them. Number one, you're going to submit an SSA 632 form. Here, I'll go ahead and basically put that in. SSA 632 form. You're also going to find an SSA 561 form. The 632 form is all about saying, I want you to reduce that amount. The 561 is all about appealing. I don't believe that this is really, that's an appeal document. I want to appeal the decision that you believe that I owe that money. And here's the gig. What you've got to learn about, I had a question about this today when somebody called in. Number one, there is countable and number one, there's earned countable income, non-earned. Sorry, what am I doing? Earned, I'm tired. Earned countable income. Earned non-countable income. Okay. Then you have unearned countable income and unearned non-countable income. Let me just give you the categories because I'm too tired to figure this out in my brain. You have earned, unearned, and resources. They either come in one of two options, countable or not countable. If you can go through and show in your finances how you had to go ahead and spend money on things to reduce what are considered countable income, or how you got rid of resources that you had that put you over the resource limit because you are an evil person, just kidding, then you can actually show by using accounting that what they considered countable was incorrect, and that was actually not countable. So you've got earned income, unearned income, and resources. These two, if you hold onto them for more than a month, become a resource. Okay, so you start out with these, and then after a month of holding on to it, becomes a resource. And they come in two flavors: countable, non-countable, countable, non-countable, countable, non-countable, income that's earned, unearned income, and resources. All right. So you can actually get yourself out of those situations. And especially, you gotta understand, if you're talking about like, where they're like, hey, you took $141 from me, the SSA, I am upset. If it's one of those gigs, you can just use a 632, because if it's under $1,000 that they're claiming that you owe them, then they almost automatically just get rid of it. Now, some of the people you get are all about protecting the trust fund, that which the funds come from. I know the managers there are usually pushing that. You got to think of the trust fund. The trust fund. Think about it. You got to think about that trust fund. And then you got employees there that don't really care about the trust fund. It's just they're doing a job. They got to process claims, get through them. And remember, it's a whole negotiation process. If you're thinking, well, they're just going to do what they're going to do, no, you negotiate. Okay, I want you to reduce it by this much. Well, we can't reduce by that much. Yada, yada, yada. All right. Robert Eckerty said because of mobility scooter, all previous jobs have been on feet and lots of med records. Well, remember, there's no job that doesn't include any potential for seated application. I mean, they all have some application of that, which is part of that. But they're probably talking about your medium, heavy, or very heavy jobs. Robert, how old are you? Because then I can tell you more about your grid out options, which is what's sounding more like you're falling into. Christina Garcia, Morgan & Morgan took my case today, but I'm so scared after seeing so many things. And you were saying there's a drug test before the hearing. I'm blown away. There's no drug test before the hearing. Like the SSA isn't going to give you a drug test before the hearing. I'm not a big fan of the M&M. I get a lot of claimants from them. I can't say anything bad about them now that I've stated their name. All I can say is I'm not a big fan of them. I can say big box firms tend to be problematic, but if you want to watch what I believe about big box firms, go check those things out. But a lot of people hire Morgan & Morgan because it is a massive, massive firm that advertises with millions and millions and millions of dollars. So they see that and they think, well, this is the one that's available because this is the one that's advertising. And that's how they do it. But either way, Christina, the best thing you can do now is to basically go watch. Let me see if I can actually find it here. I'll see if I can find you the links real quick. Top 50 ALJ trick questions. I'm going to see if I can find you the playlist real quick because this is super duper important. How do I think I copy it? Can I copy this? Yeah, let me copy this. The most important thing you can do, Christina, is to go and watch this. That's like the number one thing you could do right now to get you rolling in the right direction. If you have enough time to do this as well, hold on, let me give you this. Top 200 disability hearing questions. And also go watch this one. Oh, that one doesn't even come up. Ooh, that one has poor SEO. What the heck? They're all on a playlist, and all it shows is Jonathan Ginsburg. That's all it shows. I don't get this. My videos all link to Jonathan Ginsburg. His videos all link to Jonathan Ginsburg. I don't get that. They're all part of the same playlist. And yet you can't even see it, like video 2. I don't know how they do this. This is very concerning for me. Anyways, just search like, here's the first video, use that, and then kind of go from there. And then just look up the next video and the next video, like top 200 number 2, top 200 number 3, etc. I don't know why it does that. My videos all link to Jonathan Ginsburg. That just annoys me. Like, you know what I mean? YouTube. God. All right. Tina Lockhart, if your back pain is about $10,000, how much would the lawyer get? So the lawyer gets 25%. So bottom line is it would be 25% up to 6K. So whatever 25% of 10,000 would be, which of course would be $2,500. Leave the Great. What government assistance is counting? Stimulus, cash, or what? Yes, the stimulus stuff doesn't affect your disability benefits at all. It kind of did a little bit with the first one, and then they wrote that out of it. So I don't think they're going to use it in an effective way. Tina, is it 25? Okay, let's see. Zen, there are no firms in Alaska. I don't know, man. I mean, it's Alaska. I mean, you have like moose, icebergs, and furry boots. I don't know what happens in Alaska. I really don't know. I wish I did. I don't know what happens up there. I know I want to visit there with a lot of warm clothing and an axe because it just feels like the right thing to do. Well, are federal remanded cases normally granted? That depends on what judge you have. That depends on whether the judge ate that morning. This is what happens with federal remand cases. A lot of people are like, I'm going to go to federal court and it's going to be awesome. First and foremost, you can't have just a legal advocate take you to federal court. That's illegal. You have to have not just an attorney, but an attorney that's certified to practice at that level of federal court, not just any attorney. This is because the attorneys are then required to go ahead and prepare a brief based upon the law that exists, and they do that in conjunction with the SSA commissioner's legal counsel. So your attorney and their attorney make a brief. The brief is the baby of these two. And then that judge reviews that brief. So you make your arguments in it. The commissioner makes their arguments in it. Then you submit it to the judge. It depends. I mean, like, that's the thing, guys. Like, you know, when you're like, hey, are they normally granted? It depends on what your arguments are, where there are errors as to law, where there are errors as to facts. I'm going to start doing videos on federal remands and appeals council stuff because I'm bored with the stuff we've been doing, and therefore you're stuck with whatever I want to make. So in that regard, we're going to be making those. So I hope you enjoy them. Yeah. All right. So Kendrick Coley. But no, most claims at that level do get denied. Most of them. But, you know, you might have a good reason for it. So I wouldn't just throw yourself under the bridge and say, no, it's not going to happen. Okay. Kendrick Coley. I've been waiting 5 more for a decision. This could with 5 more years. 5 more years? How could that? Oh, good. Okay. She's texting me through Facebook now, which means I can see it. I don't know what that is. I don't know. All right. Anyways, so you should not have waited 5 years for a hearing. That is scary, worrisome, and a very old claim. I mean, that's like a claim where I don't even, that's like it was a paper file. The paper got old. They had to reprint it, put it in another bucket, and then everybody was afraid to digitize it because it was too much to scan. Zen, awesome. You won in federal. Very good. Very good. The same ALJ in the federal remanded case as before. What has been your most liked cases that you enjoy going through the case? Oh, that's a good question. Nobody's ever cared to ask me what's my favorite claim. That's interesting. I have no idea how to answer that. My favorite claims were my biggest screw ups. That's actually my correct answer. My favorite, and that's not just legally that I screwed it up, but like, you know, like where I just, you know, could have done something to change it. Like I had a claimant that was actually had an IQ that was above Einstein, but she had a really bad drinking problem. She missed every hearing, 5 hearings in a row. And I put my knee pads on and I begged that judge in Orlando, who's not even there anymore, to take her claims or to take her to allow her to have another hearing. And then finally on the final, I finally got her in there, and she even forgot that she had the hearing. I found her on her little tricycle driving around. She was older, but a genius. When she wasn't drunk, she could do math like one of these kids on YouTube where they just magically know all the answers. So what you've got to understand is this. I got her benefits. She had massive, and I mean massive back pay. I mean like buy a property and a house, cash back pay. A month and I think a week, she got drunk with all the money she had, walked in front of a car on East Colonial, right by where the Publix is, the newer one, and the McDonald's right in front. And she passed away. She died. She got hit by a car and she died, which is very sad. Those were some of my favorite claims because I learned a lot. I learned a lot about not being passive against telling claimants that they need a payee. And being more aggressive and saying, look, dude, you're going to F up your life. You're going to screw it up. You're going to end up dead. Literally on my phone, I sent it to Cheyenne the other day. I was going to the post office, and a lot of people die in front of me. I don't know why that is, but, you know, I see a lot of hit and run claims. I see a lot of hit by car claims. And I started to take video of them so that, you know, essentially if they need it for trial or court or whatever, you know, people look at me and they're like, why are you taking video? And my first thing is record retention, evidence retention. That's what we need. So I sent it to her because I wanted her to enjoy that video in the sense of understanding and learning what's happening. And, you know, it's sad, but there's so much to be learned. Moments very dramatic. But that was one of my claims that I really liked. Another claim that I really liked. Another claim that I really liked was a claimant I had no control over. I learned a lot from that claim. There was a claimant where I had to take him to a substance abuse facility. And in order for him to be accepted by the substance abuse facility, I had to essentially make sure that he would be admitted. And I can't tell you how he afforded the beer to be able to go to that substance abuse facility, but he did. And you gotta understand something, guys. Disability law is not like a standard attorney. You have to work with people and get people structured in the right way to get the evidence to present to the judge. You need professionals for the evidence, right? You need therapists, you need doctors, you need specialists, you need professionals. But unfortunately, some of these systems are broken. A lot of them are. You know, and I know you guys know I'm not a huge fan of Biden, but I do support what Biden was saying with the changes he's going to be doing for disability benefits. I supported them heavily in a video I recently made. I'm going to actually be supporting them more by creating this huge list for him of things that he can do along those lines that'll help him out with parsing things up. So the claims I learn a lot from, and that's a problem too. The expectation is that attorneys know the law, ergo that's all they need to know. That's not how it works. A lot of attorneys are afraid to tell their claimants what the problem is or what's actually going on or yada yada. I have learned personally from dealing with very rich claimants and homeless people and everybody in between that it is better to be blunt, rude, and honest, and then help them get to where they need to be. That's what I found works the best. All right, so let's do this. Do you have to make a certain amount for them to take 6,000? Yeah. So Tina, the way it works is 25%, right? So if you make over essentially an amount where 25%. So let's say you had 20,000, or let's say you had $30,000 in back pay. Then that 25% of that would be more than 6K. So they would only get their 6K, but they'd actually only get around $5,900 because they take out around $100 as a processing fee, which they then tax us on. Another stupid rule, even though we don't get to receive that money. All right, Zen, I'm telling you, there are no SSA lawyers in Alaska. I got mine through Washington. Wow, I mean that makes sense, man. I mean, Washington's just a hop, skip, and jump away. I do want to go to Alaska, though. I do want to pet a moose. Anyways, let's go to the next one. Ashley, Teen would be 24K. Yeah, 24K. There you go. For the mathletes here. I mean, I have an MBA, so I should have been able to figure that out on the spot. But keep in mind, I do work all day, and then I do this, and then I work all night, and then I wake up and I rinse, repeat, and I do that every single day. So exciting. All right, let's go over here. Dose Lover Star. In other words, the federal case was remanded back to the ALJ. Just asking your take on it. Both SSA attorney and their attorney agreed that it should go back to the ALJ. Yeah, so if they both agreed on a remand back to the ALJ, that means the ALJ made an error as to factor law in the claim. That means that they're either going to specifically request from the administrative law judge to ask and figure out something about a particular topic, or they're going to give a general, a general overview, kind of like, we want you to do another hearing. We want you to learn over, another. They're going to give one of those general write-ups where they're just expecting the attorney and the judge to do another one. So ask the attorney for the remand notice and look to see specifically what they're asking for in it. You might be surprised. It might not be about the thing that you think it is. Like I'll have a claim be remanded sometimes, and I'll be like, and then I'll go read the decision. I was like, that's not why I wanted it remanded. That's not even why I asked why it should be remanded. And then they'll just remand it for another reason. Kendrick Coley, since August 18 and still haven't gotten a letter yet, is that good or bad? I mean, look, man, COVID is a magical thing. It has taken every schedule, every docket, every lineup, every timeline, and it's just them all over the place. That seems like, so we got, let's say 15 to half a month, August, September, October, November, December, January, So, we got 5.5 feet, kind of, that seems like a while to wait for a brief. But remember, when they release their decisions, it's 3 to 4 months, unless you have a judge that takes 7 to 8 months, and some of them do, and that's the reality of it. Okay, some of them they take 8 or 9 months, and then everybody's like, "Attorney, what are you going to do about it?" And the attorney's like, "Well, I could piss them off for you. They get a decision really quick." So, bottom line, the way you get a decision from a judge a little bit faster when that situation pops up is you tell your attorney, "I need you to go borrow your knee pads from the closet. I need you to put them on. And I need you to beg the judge to go ahead and just take a quick look at the claim and see if it can be finalized a little bit faster than it currently is." And the attorney will literally write a letter to the judge. It's almost like what we do is we create a letter as if we were approaching a king, as if we were approaching royalty. And we basically ask them in a very, very positive, uplifting manner to go ahead and potentially just appreciate. We would appreciate it, and the client would appreciate it. Last one on here, and we don't have any other people calling in, so I'm actually going to go ahead and answer these questions, and then I'm going to get back to work. I should have a whole box of paperwork to go through. Let's see. Seems like they're approving more since COVID-19. Yeah, I would say, Lily, that's correct. They are approving more since COVID-19. I think they're approving more too because Biden's in, and disability benefits tends to fall into a more liberal kind of backdrop and things like that. So I think they are approving more claims. Monique, I am 45 with a master's degree. Okay, so that's 2 strikes against you, not for a grid option. And heart disease, 4 heart stents, and fibro and migraines cannot work, but we'll have to try because they keep denying me, plus anxiety and depression. That's a winnable claim. You just got to have the right medical evidence, and you also have to have a sleep study done. You also have to have a lot of medical machines, ambulatory devices that you have to use. You might want to be one of those people where, your heart disease is going great now that they put all those stents in, but it's usually not. Usually you're halfway on your way to not being able to walk properly. Let's see. John R. Go to the Maine. It's closer to Penamoose. I do go to Maine. I go to Maine all the time. Family members, house up there. My favorite spot is actually the favorite spot of Martha Stewart, the Fords, the Rockefellers. I go there all the time. I absolutely love the culture up there. The culture is changing a bit because drugs found basically Maine, which is not good, but especially with all the sailors up there. But I am not a drinker. I do not drink alcohol. In fact, the only time I ever drink alcohol, so if anybody ever wants to poison me, don't try alcohol. You'll be waiting all year. The only time I drink alcohol is when I have basically a blueberry beer with lots of blueberries in it in Maine once a year. That's the only time I drink alcohol. Otherwise, I can't drink it. I get sick. My face gets really red and I die. So that's basically what happens. So I love Maine. I absolutely love the quality and style of life in Maine. Monique 662, Morgan & Morgan failed me. Yeah, not uncommon. It's not a good deal. But in their defense, they got you over here, and now you can learn all about disability benefits and teach yourself and learn more and do great things. Sometimes it takes this to get to this. I've always hated that situation in life, but I find that happens. So, okay, so Lily the Great, what if you get another disorder that your doctor noted like 2 weeks before the hearing? It wouldn't be added with it. Okay, so Lily, that's a really good question. That is something that happened to me last week. The claimant went to the hospital, got a new impairment, and then they were like, hey, I got a new impairment. And the impairment was really good. It was a really good diagnostic impression. It was like a you meet a listing situation. Here's the tricky part about that. I always tend to request, but you got to leave it up to the judge because the judge gets to decide. I always tend to request at 2 weeks from the hearing, that's within the 5-10-day rule. So 5 days before the hearing, you got to notify the judge as to outstanding records. If it's that far out, right, which isn't that far out, it's only 14 days out. If it's that far out, then I usually request from the judge 14 days open record, and I go get the records. If it's within 5 days of the hearing, I send the judge one of those, put my knee pads on, Your Honor. The claimant understands that you don't have to admit this evidence. I'm hoping you will. 14 days of open record would allow me to obtain these records, so on and so forth. Therefore, would you please allow these records to be admitted? Now, because you have a new diagnostic impression, that's like the main thing they're usually looking for. If they're looking for a medical test, they'll allow it. If it's a new diagnostic impression, something new to the claim that's very important and relevant to it, they'll usually allow it. And that's because the statute is specifically written for the judges to have emphasis towards new things, medical examinations that are relevant to the 5-step sequential process, or basically it's a situation where they didn't have any medical evidence and boom, now they have some. All right. So I always submit when it's outside of the 5-10 day, a 14-day request. I think about it, and I think about the judge that I'm going in front of if it's within the 5-day. That you got to think about. I just watched the video. Halfway through, I asked for your email and then seen it in the description. I'm sorry. Oh, don't, Christina Garcia, don't worry about that. That's no biggie. Let's see. John R. Darn law. I don't know why she's saying darn. Okay, so John R. Love Maine. I live in Rhode Island. Yeah, that's the crappy version of Maine. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding. You know it's true. All right. Dose lover star, the treating physicians evals not being considered as the SSA's doctors. I mean, John R., here's the thing. You cannot compare. I mean, you can compare Rhode Island, some of the nicest spots, but Rhode Island is like a fake version of the real Maine, right? Rhode Island is like it's like they made a cutesy version of a cottage to replicate the real cottage and backdrop and trees and craggy rocks of Maine. That's what Rhode Island is. It's like the plasticized, we threw some varnish on it version of Maine. So if you want the real Maine, you go to Maine. If you want, like, we put some clear coat on it, we sold it for a higher price, you go there. All right, so dose lover star, let's see, the treating physicians evals not being considered at the SSA doctors were given preference. Also the VE's opinion, this is what was told the ALJ to look over. The treating physicians evals not being considered. All right, so what happened was the judge gave too much weight to the doctors or didn't give any weight at all to the doctors that were seeing physicians that were your doctors. So that's usually a really good reason to go ahead and send it back for remand, because the judge then has to say, where are your doctors in this versus the SSA's doctors? And remember, 2017-18, they got rid of the rule where your doctors are worth more in an evidence balancing test. Your doctors used to be worth more because they were seeing physicians, and your non-seeing physicians, the SSA doctors. But now they're not. They're worth the same. It's a really, really shitty rule that they put in. I don't know why they did. I do know why they did it. It's because they want to get less people on disability benefits. That's the easiest way to do it. Let's see. Lily the Great. Nobody would ever do that. You're too. Oh, thank you. Nobody would try and, poison me with blueberry beer. Lily the Great. My records, but I believe they got it too soon last month. The judge can still consider it. Absolutely can still consider it. Judge R, really meaning I'm close to Maine law. Yeah, I know. John, you know how it is. You know how Maine is. Lily the Great. Yes. Styles. I never knew heart valve disease, cardiomyopathy, mitral valve disease, systolic and diastolic is considered a listing. Yeah, dude. Yeah, cardiovascular. Absolutely. So I'm appealing to appeals council this year. Is my last year insured until December. Should I just reapply? But I haven't really been to the doctor since COVID, or just right after this. Oh, so Monique, you are what I like to call the Yada-lock syndrome. All right. First of all, you're not going to know what a Yada-lock is, but there was a card game. I forget what it was. I think it was like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Yu Yu Hakusho or whatever. There was a card game that had this monster in it. It was a card. And if you could set the dynamics up in this card game to play that, you could win the game by just doing this repetitive, miniature attack over and over. I called it a Yada-lock because you basically set yourself up to fail if you don't have the evidence to go ahead and prove it by going to appeals council and wiping out essentially your date last insured. So here's, Monique, what you're going to do. You are going to go to appeals council. You're going to find a part-time job that basically pays you a bit. You're going to try to do it, but you're probably going to fail at it. I don't know if you will, but you probably fail at it after a couple of months. You'll then go find another job. You work it, make some money, but then you probably fail at it after a couple of months. You're going to go ahead and basically do this 4 or 5 times, as much as you can, to earn enough money to get enough quarters of coverage to push your date last insured forward. Even if they're failed work attempts, you're still earning enough to get your quarters of coverage. That way, when you are applying to appeals council, you are not running the risk of killing off your date last insured. You're going to go get some crap jobs. You're going to work them until you get, fired or quit, and then you're going to go on to the next one. And that's going to get you enough money to go ahead and move your alleged onset date or your quarters coverage date last insured forward in time. That way, you're safe. Okay, Lily the Great. Isn't it good news if you've never seen one SSA doctors? It could be. It could be bad news too. It could be that you just weren't available. The evidence was so bad that they clearly didn't need one for you. Could be that you have great medical evidence and tons of it, and therefore they don't need it. That's an option too. Dose Lover Star. They told them that they failed to consider the treating physician's report, and they were told to reconsider them again. Yeah, so that's a classic claim, not affording enough. With that, we say it as attorneys like this: the treating physicians were not afforded enough weight during the evidence consideration by the adjudicator, which is your ALJ, administrative law judge. What that means is that the judge unfairly gave too much weight without consideration or the proper amount of consideration to the seeing physicians, rather to your SSA CE doctors, the ME medical experts, over your own seeing physicians. So essentially, here were your seeing physicians, here were the SSA doctors, and the judge did this and gave all the credit to these guys when he should have afforded some credit to these guys. So failed work credits. Let's see. They told them that they failed to consider blah, blah, blah. So failed work credits. If I apply for FAFSA and was approved and want to go back to school online only, will this affect my SSI? Every time that you go and start a school thing or you graduate from school, it automatically triggers a CDR, continuing disability review. And it also is a statement that when you finish school, you did school with the purpose of getting financial gains, employment from that academia. So yeah, for SSI, it definitely hurts. But still, get educated and then go into a ticket to work program and, go from there. John R., thanks for doing this, taking the time to help us all. I appreciate it. You got it, good sir. Lily the Great, tons of it and lots of it, doctors. That's good. They never asked me, okay, that's good. Was inpatient hospital? That's good. It's all good stuff. So guys, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop off, work for about 2 hours, go to the USPS when nobody's there, blare out Star Wars themed music from my iPhone while I use their machine. And because nobody's there, who cares? They literally have thousands of hours of images and video in their video cameras of me dancing in front of a machine to Star Wars orchestral music. So what I'm going to do is that I will catch you guys a little bit later. Let's see. I'll just answer these last. If you win on your refile a new claim, can you go back and fight for the lost monies from the old claim? Yeah, well, you actually use your, let's say that if you file a new claim, you've killed off that old claim. If you file a new claim but have an old claim at the federal level, federal district, circuit, or supreme level, then you haven't killed off that claim. You can use winning the new claim to benefit and help win that claim over there at the district, circuit, or supreme level. However, if you had a claim and you got denied and then you did a new claim, right, and this was just like an initial filing, a recon, ALJ, or appeals council claim, in the SSA docket, it's just one of those, like one of those got denied and then you filed a new claim, you can't do anything with this claim. That claim's dead. Dale Regal, born with cerebral palsy. Okay, we're full-time until 38 applied. All doctors approved except SSA. ALJ approved without a hearing. Okay, ALJ approved that. Yeah, it's an OTR. OTR is on the record review. That's where they look at the record. They say you're good to go, and they find you disabled. Thank you for your advice. Absolutely. Let's see. Chris Gordon, thanks for doing this. We appreciate it. Thank you, good sir. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful night. I'll catch up with you later. And also, this is very important. I know you guys aren't super interested in it, but you should be. And here's why. The most important thing you're going to hear tonight, the trailer that I've spent countless hours on for spaceconstitution.com, the first open source constitution where you can write in whatever you want that you think people should have as freedoms. Whatever you want. If somebody goes to space, they can't use oxygen as a deprivation factor for a crime committed. If somebody goes to space 5 generations down the line from them, they still get to claim citizenship to the country they left on Earth. Whatever you think should be a right or freedom, you get to write it there. And it's not just for space stations and planets. It's for current countries as well. The trailer and the full release of the website is going to be happening in the next couple of weeks. I beg you to go watch it. I will notify you through this channel when it gets released. I'm really, Cheyenne's really excited about the trailer. I have spent countless hours editing it, reshaping it, pulling out my hair about it, threw everything. Actually, the first trailer I spent about 100 hours on, I threw everything out, threw the whole thing out. Wasn't happy with it. Then I made another one. This one's good. This one, you're going to be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. The audio, I engineered all that stuff. The video, I stacked it all together and made it come together. You're going to love it. It is at a very high professional level. So guys, have a wonderful night. I will I'll catch up with you. Yeah, animal welfare laws. That's at the very high up. In fact, in the trailer, there's a thing about that. Anyways, guys, I will catch you later. Have a wonderful night, and we'll go from there. Thank you so much. Remember to take care of each other, help each other out, and don't be afraid to reach out with any additional questions. Thanks so much, guys. Bye-bye.